Okay everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we're back with a guide for Daily Race A and Daily Race C. We're not going to do a guide for Daily Race B because we already have a Spa Group 4 guide on the channel for your time trial, and I think it's done on the hard tyres as well. If I remember, I will link that video into the description of this video so that you can check that out as well. Hopefully it'll help you out. But yeah, for today's video we're going to do just a time trial guide for A and C. I did want to do a race lap guide for C as well, however I just don't want to go onto that race on my main account because it's going to be too risky. I could go on my second account, but the problem with that is it's so low rated that it's going to be hard to get an actual lap in that's going to give you much benefit, because it's just going to be coming up behind slower drivers, and then we're going to have to brake before we would normally brake. Yeah, and I think it's not really going to be much benefit for you. So for this week we're just going to do the guides for the time trial, which is extremely important. The reason for that, it's a standing start on Daily Race A and Daily Race C. So you really want to be as far forward and get away from that chaos, especially I'd say more for Daily Race C, because of the turn 1 is a little bit more chaotic than the turn 1 of this race. You can actually, it's quite a fast corner into turn 1 of the mini race, and you're not really going to brake that much. So yeah, I think although it's still important for this one because it's going to give you a nice clean track ahead of you, I think Daily Race C is going to be important to not be in that midfield. So yeah, we're going to go through our guides, try and give you as much input as possible to help you improve your time. Now, one thing I do recommend straight away for this one is, I did this lap on my first lap. You see, we're just starting the time trial. It's probably a good idea to do an out lap. So go for a fast lap and then try and do an even faster lap on that second lap, because you can take more speed through the final corner and actually improve your time by just under a tenth, really, just purely because you're going down this straight a little bit faster. So working your way into turn 1, we're going to be looking for one of the white boards on the right hand side. You see the barrier on the right hand side, you see how it goes from blue to white. So just after the 100 board, you're going to notice there is a white one there. You're going to brake pretty much dead in the middle of that, but you're naturally going to do it at the start of it in your brain, because obviously reaction time. And now working your way down into turn 1, you're going to stay to the right hand side. You see how I almost clipped the blue barrier on the right hand side, staying right of this white line. Now this is important because it's going to rotate your car when you hit down hard on that bump in the middle. See how it rotates this car? You kind of need to do that because this is an FF car, helps the rotation. And now at this point you're going to be trying to get your left hand tire to get as close to this apex as possible, gradually putting that throttle in. You see how we're not going straight to 100%. We went about 20 to 50, 60%, and then 100% throttle, using the full width of the track on the right hand side again, getting very close to the barrier on the right hand side, and then again just past the 100 board again on the right hand side, you're going to put a dab of braking in. This is just to help rotate the car with a bit of weight transfer to the front tyres, and you're going to be again looking for that white bit of tarmac there to get your left hand tyre over. On the throttle now, you see how we're on 50% throttle, slowly up to 100%, and now it's full throttle into the next braking zone, where we're just going to dab the brakes just there. And this is just to, again, help rotate the car into that corner that you're just focusing on in the distance there. Again, you're going to cut some of this using the white bit of tarmac on the throttle, 50%, and then 100%, working your way out of the corner, using some of the curb on the left if you need to help obviously not go onto the grass. Now into the next zone, you're going to be seeing, we're going to brake just past this 100 board on the left hand side, and make sure you're braking before the tunnel, the bridge, because if you brake too late here, you're going to just understeer wide and lose a lot of time. Now, important to stay into third gear here. Do not go into second gear, because third gear will give you more control on the exit in terms of acceleration. Stay in tight to the apex, watch the throttle control. You see how even with this, you'll see I'm doing gradual throttle control through there, but even then I still could have done that better. A little bit too much wheel spin, maybe lost a fraction of time. Now into the next braking zone, we're going to brake around about here, just in between. You see how we're leaving quite a bit of distance on the curb on the right hand side. This is going to help rotate the car through the corner. We could have done this better. You see how the Ghost actually overtakes, my own Ghost overtakes me there because I didn't go in aggressive enough. Then on the throttle, again 50% throttle up to 100% throttle, accelerating out the corner. And again, this final corner is vital. You need to carry as much speed through this corner as possible. You see how we're going to go up to fourth gear, and now we're going to focus on turning in into this corner as close to the wall as possible, using that 50 board as kind of a reference. You're making sure you're turning in before skimming the wall on the left hand side. You have to do that to get maximum speed out of this corner. and you can already see the difference from in terms of speed from our out lap to this lap now. And this is why you kind of want to do that if you want to go for a really fast lap, because you will gain a bit of time. Now we're going to go over the line. I think it's going to be a 1 minute 26.5 if I remember, 5 something. It could have been a lot faster. We just jumped on very quickly to get a slightly better lap in. And yeah, you're going to see already at this point, just take a look at this. As we go there, we're going to pause it, and you can see we're already up on the previous lap purely because we did that second lap. So that is the type of gains you're going to get. It's not a massive amount, but it's definitely worth looking at doing to increase your time by, you know, just under a tenth. As we see that really aggressive turn into turn 1, you see how we really bounce the car down on that curb. Now, doing that in the race 100 every time perfectly is going to be difficult. If you can master it, do it. If not, you might want to take a safer route and take a bit more of a narrower line through that corner. But again, you're going to see here, using the full width of the track all the time, getting the car into the apex, almost onto the grass there. Again, using the curb, really shows you just you have to use everything with these, especially these FF cars. You need to really help with the rotation, so using the full width of the track. Now you're going to see how I was talking about, I was a little bit too aggressive on the throttle through here. You're going to see a little bit of wheel spin as we come out of here. I was a bit too aggressive. You see all the smoke. That's because I was just a fraction too aggressive on that throttle. Wasn't anything drastic, but yeah, just a tiny bit too aggressive. And then through here, again, a little bit of wheel spin, nothing too bad. Actually did quite good control on the accelerator out of that corner. And then the final corner, this was so close to the wall. This is what I'm talking about. Just look at that. We almost grazed the wall on the left hand side there. Actually could have took a bit more speed up to the wall on the right hand side as well, because maybe I could have been a bit brave with how, you know, how close to the wall I got on the left hand side. But then you're working your way over line to finish the lap. So hopefully that lap will help you out for race A. Now we're going to move on to daily race C and give you a guide for improving your grid position in the Toyota 86 at Autopolis. So now for daily race C, we're obviously driving a very different car. This is a rear engine powered car, so this is naturally going to drift a little bit more than what we was driving before, obviously in the FF car. This car is going to tend to kick the rear out a little bit more. It wants to turn in a lot better, so you'll have much better rotation. So going into turn 1, we're going to be looking for the 100 board on the left hand side, where you're going to be inputting your first braking inputs for turn 1. So there's a 100 board. We're going to wait till we get to there, and you can see just short of it actually, we're going to start putting that braking input in and onto the brakes quite aggressively, downshift into third gear. And we're going to use this, you can almost see the tyre marks on the track, which I use as a reference of the line you want to take through the corner. You see, just follow them through there, skim the curb on the right side, on the throttle very early. Important to get on that throttle in third gear very early to get the exit speed out of the corner and work your way into turn 2. So working our way into turn 2, we're going to be looking for a little bit of tarmac on the left hand side. You're just going to spot it there, just on the left. You'll see it there. That is your braking reference. You see the braking inputs going in there, and there's that little nice bit of tarmac there as your reference. It really does help you get the spot perfectly. Down into third gear, using the curb on the right side. I actually use quite an aggressive bit of curb, and now all the way through this section, it is vital that your throttle control is key. You'll see now 50% throttle is constantly changing. I don't touch the brake through here. This is all done through throttle control. And then you're going to rotate the car, get it in a straight line. As soon as the car's into a straight line and ready to rotate back right, you're on the brakes. You'll see we're straight away on the brakes now, aggressively on the brakes, down to second gear, and we want to get the car into this apex and skim the curb on the right hand side. You see how we just get onto that curb on the throttle nice and early, and you can really stamp on the throttle with this car, obviously, because that power is transmitted to the rear tyres. Now we're going to work our way into this very fast left hand corner, where you're going to try and get the right hand tyre onto that curb to widen the line in. Just be careful you don't go too far wide, because you'll start drifting the car. And we're not going to touch the brake. This is all done again with the throttle. Keep an eye on that throttle response on the right there, where the arrow is, and you see how we're just lifting it off and then back on the throttle, trying to skim the apex with the curb on the left hand side. And then early upshift into fourth gear. I really advise doing that when you're at about 80 miles per hour. It just keeps you accelerating going. You can see the difference with the ghost behind me there now. It just appeared. That was because with that car I accelerated a bit more with third gear. Now we're going to be going into the next braking zone, braking just short of the 50 board on the right hand side, making sure that you're just short of that, down into third gear. I turned in a little bit early. You can see this. I actually turned in too early for this corner, but got away with it. We used a bit too much of the curb and the tarmac on the left, but managed to get on the throttle nice and early, so we gained a little bit. But yeah, you can see how the Ghost in front of me now is pulling away down the straight because it didn't quite square the car off with going up a little bit higher on the hill. So yeah, a little bit of time loss there. Now we're going into the next braking zone, braking just short of the 50 board on the left hand side. Your eyes are focused on that circle for the apex of this corner. Very important here to really get it closest to the curb as possible. Down into third gear, back into fourth gear, you'll see here, to try and stabilize the car. That's to try and settle the car down, and then it's also going to help rotate the car when we go back down to third gear as we put that throttle response in there. You see how we're gradually using the throttle to try and rotate the car, little lifts off the throttle again just to try and get the car back into the line that we want. And again, through here you're going to see a little bit of a lift off the throttle again as we go into the curb there, lifting off the throttle. And then we're going to put a bit of braking input in just before this corner. You see how the brakes are now going to go in. And one big key to this lap is do not go into second gear for this corner. Keep it in third gear. Just let it coast through now. Let it coast. And then once you're down to about 54, 55 miles per hour, back onto the throttle, accelerate through in third gear, and you'll gain a massive chunk. If you go into second gear for that corner there, you're going to lose 3 or 4 attempts instantly. Third gear is really important to stay in through that section. And now through this left hand corner again, we're just going to lift off the throttle, no braking input going in, just using so much throttle control to get the car through these corners, and then into the really important final corner. Now I made a slight error going a bit too fast through here, missed the apex slightly, but we managed to recover it slightly. You'll see going through the corner, you see we're just lifting off the throttle, trying to get it to the apex, and I just didn't bite it into the apex as well enough. We're back on the throttle here, and I have to put a bit of braking input in. You'll see a tiny bit of braking input going in back then to try and rotate the car. It was only for a brief like millisecond, but it was because I obviously had to rotate the car to get it into the line that I wanted and power off the exit as well as I wanted. But yeah, maybe lost a fraction, maybe a tenth or half a tenth or something like that. But we go over the line on a 2 minutes 11.9. Now let's take a look at that lap from the chase camera, just to show you some the little things where we might have made a mistake, and to give you some pointers again from this view. It does sometimes help out. And you're going to see following the line through there, you can really see that the tyre line that I talk about through that corner, which helps you take the correct line. And then into this corner, you're going to see that bit of tarmac on the left hand side from this chase camera again. As we go through here, you'll just see that tarmac there. Perfect reference for hitting the braking. It's never going to go anywhere, it's always there. So yeah, use that one, it's a good little reference to use. And then throttle control, really important. One thing I would say about this whole lap, again for race A and race C, is very good throttle control. Smoother on this track is faster. I'm not particularly good at this track. It's not one of my favorites, but the smoother you learn to drive it, the faster you will become. So yeah, it's not always on about getting on the brakes. A lot of it's just using that throttle control. You're through some of these corners, you're hardly touching the brakes, only really in the heavy braking zones. Obviously, if you're in a faster car, you'd be on the brakes a little bit more, but this car, it's more about throttle control. And again, using that 50 board just short of that braking. You see how I turned in a bit too early. It got too much rotation on the car onto the tarmac on the left, but luckily got on the throttle nice and early going down this straight now. Then you're working your way into this very important sector. Now this is the sector I talked about. You're hardly on the brakes at all. A lot of this is just done through throttle control and being smooth. So yeah, you'll see through here, just lifting off the throttle, letting the car coast, using the throttle, being smooth, onto the throttle again, and then again through here, just a little lift off the throttle to rotate the car, and then you're on your brakes just very briefly there, just to let the car coast all the way through. And yeah, when you nail this sector, it really feels good, and it actually feels quite rewarding. If you overdrive the car through here, you're just going to lose time. You really need to just learn to not push the car too much. Let the car do the work. Don't think that you need to accelerate so aggressively and chuck the car in. The smoother you are, the better your lap time will be here. And you'll see that little bit of braking input I had to put in to get it back into the curb. Maybe lost me, half a tenth, something like that. But still, a pretty solid lap. A 2 minutes 11.9. Pretty happy with that. And like I say, we just jumped on very late just to improve the lap a bit, because I knew there was a 2 tenths at least in the lap without much effort. So hopefully this can help you improve your qualifying. I hope it gets you further up the grid. Hopefully you can take some of the tips from it. I do apologise for not doing the race guide, but I just did not want to risk on my main account for these races. They're just too dangerous in terms of getting a DR reset. Hopefully next week's races will be back to the race guide along with the proper time trial guide to help you with both aspects. But yeah, big advice is just brake a little bit earlier for turn 1, and the other corners is not too much difference really, because you're not going overly fast in this car. But yeah, turn 1 is where you really want to brake a fraction earlier, just to give yourself a bit of a smoother line through that corner with the extra fuel on. But you need to make sure you're on the throttle nice and early with that fuel, because it will be quite sluggish compared to the time trial. Anyway, thanks again for watching, everyone. Make sure you give this video a like, it does help the channel out. And leave me any comments in the comment section if you want to know. Brake bias for our laps, I think we used 2 to the rear for the Toyota, and with the Mini I think we used, actually I think we might have used -1 with the Mini. I can't 100% remember, but yeah, I think it was -1. We definitely didn't go rearwards, because for some reason it seemed to help with -1 or 0. I was messing around with between the two. Can't remember which one I did for the actual lap. But anyway, thanks again for watching. I'll see you all soon, and take care, everyone.